So this segment is called, Was I Wrong? Alright, so this is about the time that I slapped my roommate in Afghanistan. And I want to ask you guys, was I wrong? What's going on, people? This your boy Terry Bluez, and you tune in to Terry Bluez TV. And this is Tall Tales from the Blues. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit that notification button and hit that playlist at the top right here. So, get ready for some true stories from my life, so stay tuned in for this one. So, disclaimer for the record, no names have been changed in the events of this story. I'm not trying to protect anybody's identity. If you got a problem with the story, fuck it, you can sue me, because it's a true story from my life and it's real. So, back when I was in the Army, my second duty station was San Antonio. It was a military intelligence unit, right? We were in my battalion, we deployed to Afghanistan, right? We deployed to Bagram Air Force Base, which if any of you know, shout out to my veterans out there, is a prison. We lived in these things, what they call CHU, C-H-U, Combat Housing Unit, right? That's what they're called. And basically all they are these metal connexes. You know, people talk about living in tiny houses. Like that's basically what it is. It's a connex transformed into a living space, but not that nice. And we gotta live to a room unless you're an officer, you get your solo room. But anyway, so we lived in these CHUs, right? And I ended up having to have to switch rooms a couple times because my first roommate, and I don't remember his name. He's lucky I don't remember his name. But he's a big, black, burly dude, looked like a bear. Like, I forget his name. But he had some sort of foot fungus, and I don't know, they almost had to chop this nigga foot off or what.
We're gonna pause this for the benefit of all y'all who never saw Soul Food. Soul Food is a movie about a big, humongous black grandmother, aptly named Big Mama. Big Mama demonstrates her love by feeding herself and her offspring enormous amounts of pig lard. Then, get this, Big Mama's arteries are so clogged, they gotta amputate her arm.
It was her leg.
Right, okay, whatever, leg.
But he ended up getting sent home. And instead of letting me live by myself, I had to get another roommate, right? So, they ended up moving me in with this guy named Jared Honor, right? And at the time, I think we were both E5s, right? We were both sergeants. And to describe Jared Honor, he was like Jersey Shore Guido, douchebag bro type. So I move into the room with him. I'm thinking it's all cool. I have no issues with him. I'm in the S2 unit. He's in the interrogation brigade. So like, we don't really have any direct relationship. As a matter of fact, we didn't even work the same shift. So I thought it worked out pretty nice because I worked the night shift and he worked the day shift. So we were never really in the room at the same time. I'm thinking where everything's kosher, right? So one day, my staff sergeant comes up to me and was like, hey man, have you talked to Honor? And I was like, no, I mean, talk to him about what? He was like, you should probably have a conversation with him, right? I was like, I don't really know what that means, but okay. I just kind of brushed it off. A few days later passed, and he's like, hey, is your room clean? I'm like, yeah, I guess. What the fuck are you talking about? He's like, so I got to talk to you about this. Honor says that, you know, you've been keeping the room dirty, you know, pissing in bottles and leaving them there.
Pissing in bottles and leaving them there.
Now, for the record, yes, I was pissing in bottles. But if anybody out there has been downrange, you fucking done the same. And don't bullshit me saying that you haven't. Because it's a normal thing. Because if you lived in these connexes, if you deployed, if any of these spaces, you know you're not getting up in the middle of the night to go to the fucking bathroom. You'll piss in that bottle and throw it out in the morning, right? Which is what I was doing. So, I was like, well, yeah, but I throw them out in the morning. He was like, okay, I mean, you know. I never really got a chance to talk to him because, again, we were always on separate schedules. And this was right before I was about to go on leave. I'm getting ready to go on leave. I'm cleaning up the room, getting ready to fly out. My first sergeant knocks on the door, right? Black dude, sort of short. I think he was Jamaican, maybe. But he was cool, right? He was cool. He's like, hey, surprise room inspection. I'm like, all right, yes, first sergeant. Comes in, he's looking. He's like, all right, this your side? I'm like, yeah. All right, cool. He's like, is this honor side? He's like, I'm like, Roger, First Sergeant. He's like, all right. I'm like, Roger, First Sergeant. He's like, all right, cool, go. I go and leave. I come back. My first sergeant pulls me in his office. He's like, hey man, you know why I had to do that room inspection? Honor's been complaining to his chain of command that you've been keeping the room dirty and you've been doing this and that and this. And yo, I lost it. And First Sergeant understood because he was a black dude. So I lost it. I was like, yo, I lost all military barrier. If there was any, there was none. I was like, yo man, and my first sergeant was like, no, you can't do that, right? You can't do that. Please just don't, just leave it alone. It's an order, leave him alone. I said, Roger, First Sergeant, I'm not gonna say nothing to him. I'm not gonna put my hands on him. Now, this may be me being petty. So this is what I would do to him, right? I would come to the room when he would sleep during the day and I would cut on all the lights. I'd turn my music all the way up and blast that shit as he's dead ass asleep, right? I would do this every day. You know what he would do? Nothing. He would stay his little punk ass in the corner, facing the wall. I know he was cussing me out in his mind, but till he had the balls to say it to my face, I wasn't gonna stop. Did that shit, kept the lights on, still wouldn't say anything to me. And in these connexes, right, air conditioning, one of them 2 split air conditioning units, and it's only controlled by remote control, I would do that shit, turn the heat on, take the remote with me. So that motherfucker will be in that bitch blazing. And it got to the point where Sergeant, I can't remember his name, he was our S1 supply guy. He came, he's like, just gonna have to move you to another room because Honor keeps complaining. They ended up moving me, so what I did was when I moved out, turn the heat all the way on blast. And mind you, we're in Afghanistan in the summer. So this shit is blazing. Nigga, I'm talking 110 plus on the regular, nigga. So I turned the heat up, pack all my shit, I dumped some shit on his bed, fucking leave that bitch, go to my new room, and I get a knock on my door a few hours later, and it's Sergeant Bush. And Sergeant Bush was an old country nigga, right? Cool ass old school dude, like, I forget where he's from, but it was definitely from the South, and he was just like, hey man, did you take the remote? I was like, yeah. He was like, I said, could he hand it back? I said, nope. Until he come get this motherfucker himself, he is not getting this shit back. I don't know what he did, but that nigga did not get their remote back. But I was not done yet. You think it's over? Nah, fuck that. It's not over.
Finish him!
Here's actually the thing that kind of made me stop. This is where I got to the point where I was like, all right, I think I've made my point. As I said, we were at Bagram Air Force Base, right? And we were in the prison. In order to get in and out, it's a very narrow pathway. To get in, you gotta go in, check your weapon in, give it to them, and then go in. So it's like one way in and out, right? But it's very narrow space. And everybody would like go to the DFAC, get breakfast, come in, get their meals to go, take it to work. It's one day, I'm coming in to work, and he's leaving, or maybe vice versa. He was standing in his alleyway, waiting to check his weapon, and he was standing there with his breakfast in his hand. Oh, and I seen this as the perfect opportunity to see what he would do. As he's standing there with his breakfast in his hand, looking all bushy-tailed and cheery-eyed for the day to start at work. As I'm walking past, I'm getting close, he's sort of looking at me out the corner of his eye, but not wanting to make contact. So I walk by him, right? And as soon as I get by him, I just, yeah! Yeah! Nigga, I'm talking about Super Saiyan uppercut. Yeah!
Chop that motherfucker in half!
Yeah! I uppercut the shit out this nigga breakfast tray. All that shit went flying through the air. Splattered all over the ground. A little bit on his uniform. I slapped that shit smooth out his hand, nigga. Bye-yow! All that shit hit the ground. I paused for a moment, look, waiting for him to react like, oh, I'm tired of this shit, man. You've been punking me this whole time. I'm tired of it. But you know what he did? He looked at me, and he looked at his plate, and he just bent over to pick it up. And I just kept walking, looking back, waiting for him to say or do something. And at that time, I was like, all right, you know what? Leave him alone. But to this day, Jared Honor, you are still a bitch ass nigga. All right, no, I'm just kidding. I'm over the shit. But you still are a bitch ass nigga probably. Anyway, I slapped this nigga breakfast out of his hand because he wouldn't be a man and step up to me. Now, was I wrong?